Hi, welcome to the Velocity Talk road test for the Isuzu D-Max AT35 Arctic Truck. It's been a really interesting test this time. As you will see on the video, I had a bit of fun in the mud, which you may be able to see. Really interesting car, certainly a big car, big truck. The D-Max was big and all-terrain. This is bigger and even more all-terrain, with the Arctic Truck company doing the first UK build, as it were, because they obviously build a lot of cars for a lot of different makes and do these upgrades, but this is the first one available in the UK. A lot of people are not sure why it's available in the UK, because we don't really have much in the way of Arctic weather. I think those people are boring. It should be having cool cars wherever you live, I think. So let's see how the test goes. So for the selfie angle, so this is where I normally do a nice little interior run through and show you lots of nice, clean, shiny shots of the car. But as you can see, it's not very clean. So the interior shots are going to be something a little bit more real. Excuse my camera equipment. As you can see, it's almost impossible to get in without getting covered in mud. Sorry, Isuzu. I have emailed to apologise already. But this is kind of what it looks like if it's doing its job, I guess. Oddly, really stylish aircon system. There's the auto box, which I'm still not convinced about. It's not a bad box. I just don't know whether it belongs in this car. But actually, it's very spacious, if that's something you're after. The kids loved it. There's bags of room in here. Heated seats, very comfortable seats. It's actually a very comfortable ride. You could do quite a lot of miles in this. Plenty of storage, double cubbies, extra power point in there, cup holder. There's your four-wheel drive selection. I will say the stereo is pretty basic. It's really old school. The volume's on the right, which seems odd as well. The USB port, which you can probably see there, is the old USB, so it's not even a universal one. So that's an issue. I would really want to change the stereo, but that's my only real bugbear. Otherwise, everything in here does exactly what it says. You've got controls on the steering wheel, got cruise control, other bits and bobs. You got audio, got phone system, but apparently it's really echoey when I called somebody. But it's certainly good enough. And there's the load bay, which fills with water. Oddly, have to kind of sweep it out. But still, plenty of room. Is what it is. It's a beast. Let's get it out of the way first, the size. I think that's probably one of the big things people are wondering, whether or not they might buy one, although I think if you're in the market for a big truck, I don't think you're worried about parking. It is big, it rides higher. We've got Fox dampers and things on there, so it can take all sorts of whacks in terms of running over rocks and everything. It is a serious all-terrain vehicle. And the ride height is ridiculous. You are higher than everything else on the road apart from trucks, and I mean lorries. I drove past a Range Rover, a Disco 3, even one of the older Discos. I'm trying to think of anything that's really tall. The window line here is higher than all of them. So if you want something high riding, this is the car for you. I feel like when I walk past the bonnet, it's coming up to my chin. I'm not a tall guy. So that's maybe not a surprise, but it is a very, very imposing vehicle, and that's fun. It's really good fun. I don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit rude, but it's just great fun to be in a really big, tall car. I think, in fact, on this very stretch of the same bit of road on the L200 video, which is becoming soon, I'm talking about the whole feeling safe and secure and being in something really unstoppable. Well, this is that feeling again. I love it. It's a total zombie apocalypse car, and that is only a good thing, if you ask me. It's actually very manoeuvrable. It handles oddly well. I really thought, oh, the ridiculous sized tyres. I thought it would be awful road noise. I thought you'd be sliding all over the place with the tyre walls kind of giving and everything. Do you know what? Weirdly, huge amount of grip, which I suppose is no surprise, but it's perfectly drivable. It'll drive around, and I live in a village, a lot of country roads. I can throw it around the country roads with no problem at all. I'm not feeling like it's really out of place, which is a weird thing. I was expecting it to feel like a monster truck. Actually, I'm totally comfortable. I've been using it as the commute into the office sometimes. Perfectly serviceable. Nice big wing mirrors, heated seats, you know, aircon and whatnot, cruise control if you really wanted it. The road noise is excellent, and by excellent I mean there isn't much. The engine is far more of an issue in terms of noise than those thumping great tyres, which is totally the opposite of what I thought it would be. I was waiting for an unstoppable roar from the footprint of the tyres, and it isn't. The diesel is harsh. It could do with some insulation. I'm not a big fan of diesels anyway. 160 brake, twin turboed, 2 litre, 4-pot diesel, and can you hear that? It makes a bit of a racket. I think part of it is because it's in an auto, so it's always stepping down and it's kind of revving when you don't want it to, and things like that. But you know what? Very drivable, very drivable. The size, going back to the original point, yeah, it doesn't fit into parking spaces too well, although with a bit of practice, I have to say, my Tesco tests, as I love to do, not advertising Tesco, I do go to other supermarkets, I squeezed in. I didn't go and find the usual 2 spaces down the other end somewhere. I squeezed in between 2 cars on a busy Saturday at a Tesco in Lewes, near where I live, and I was really impressed with myself that I got it in and I got it out, and no one was sort of walking around it. People did walk past going, wow, that's big, but it fitted in. So for those of you who may be thinking about purchasing an AT35 and are worried about going to Tesco's or any other supermarket, you will fit in. Just have the confidence. And we've got rear parking sensors, which helps. Could do with some fronts. The bonnet just kind of drops off a cliff. Although it's not a hugely long bonnet, and I found you can take it pretty tight. But yeah, some front sensors would be nice. I can't see it would have added too much onto the extra cost to pop some of them on there. For those who aren't aware, just Google it, but Arctic Trucks are a company that build kind of custom runs or individual vehicles for Arctic conditions. So they use Hiluxes and all sorts of stuff. They did the famous Top Gear Hilux, the big red one. They do a lot of Icelandic stuff, a lot of expedition trucks. So they know what they're doing. They're pretty serious in this game. As I said at the beginning, this is the first of one of their vehicles that's actually been commercially available in the UK to actually go and buy. It's available from apparently all the Isuzu dealerships. Let's ignore the question of why, because I hate that question, because it's cool, that's why, and it's fun, and why, you know, if you don't want it, don't buy it. But it is interesting that the pedigree is huge. Now, I'd be really interested to see how this car then coped in that kind of environment against a true custom Arctic truck, and whether or not this is more of a badge thing or whether it is they've really put a lot into it. Yes, it's got uprated shocks, it's got big tyres, big wide wheel arches, and the D-Max is a pretty ferocious machine in its own right, so I guess that combination is more than enough for most people. I think it's a great combination. I think it's really nice to have it. I love the name. The AT35 is it's just a cool name. It's good. It's a good toy. If you ever grew up and you're old enough like me to remember your Tonka toys, it is definitely like driving around in a Tonka toy, which is great. And there's some heritage to it. It's cool. It's good to talk about. It's very interesting to have a chat about what Arctic Trucks have done, and to be driving around in a car that's had potentially the same people working on it as some of those enormous beasts. If you've ever been to Iceland, you've seen some of these trucks, and the Top Gear car. So I think that's that's a very good thing, and it's a nice brand to be associated with. I think Isuzu have made a good call doing it. I think they made a good call releasing it in the UK. I think some people, not everyone, some people will buy this vehicle and love it. So performance-wise, it's not really a discussion you should have with a car like this. 0 to 60 is a long way away. I think, I did check, I don't really care about things like that on this sort of car. I think it's nearer 15 seconds. To be fair, it feels more sprightly than that. I think that my issue is perhaps with the auto box. It's very slow to kick in. And with a manual, I feel like I could preload the revs a little bit. So as you're pulling away, you get the turbo spooled up, so you can get a little bit more of a jump on things. But so it's the pulling away is a problem. You'll go flat to the floor and you're waiting for something to happen. So it's very laggy like that. But you know what? Bags of torque, as you'd imagine, and it pushes on. Performance is not an issue. You know, if someone said to me, "Oh, here's a hatchback that does 0 to 60 in 15 seconds," I'd weep. But it's perfectly serviceable for what it is, and it works. It'll do 60, 70, 80, you know, it'll do the speeds that you want it to do on motorways, and with the reduced road noise, which I'm still a bit stunned about, that works really well. So performance discussion is very short with this. It's more than adequate. Plenty of torque. I think you can tow about 2,000 kilos or so. You can tow a very substantial caravan with this. Plus you've got like a ton load weight in the back as well. So this is not a car to be trifled with, and if you need a workhorse, this will do the work. But so will a normal D-Max. So I think you need to obviously have a think about whether you want to go the full AT35 route. So, as you will have seen by now, I got it stuck. Now, I can almost hear people screaming away going, "You're rubbish at off-road driving," etc, etc. That may be a fact. Never really done it before. So if anyone's watching and wants to teach me, by all means give me a shout. We'll shoot a video. But I went to my friend's farm. I said, "Can I drive around your field, please?" And he said, "Yes, it's a bit wet, but go for it." I'm in a huge truck, so I assumed, wrongly, that I could just drive through anything. Now, actually, having spoken to a few people afterwards, I realised the tyres are not particularly mud-plugging tyres, and they're kind of 60/40s or something, whatever that means, I had to ask. So we were driving along, losing a bit of traction, kept the boot in, fine. And then apparently what we went through was a really, really soggy bit where a lot of water drains off, and I tipped into the crop area a little bit and it sunk. And I could not get it out. Now, there's a couple of things that have come up in conversation with said friend, who has a Navara and a Disco and a few tractors, so he's used to getting his cars out of the mud. Because it's an auto, you can't do any rocking, and that is a good way to get out of a hole. Even I know that in my poor off-road driving skills. So we're stuck with an auto that you're kind of a bit out of control for. The other thing is the diffs are all electronic, so I had no idea what I was locking up. So you've got two-wheel drive, you've got four-wheel drive high range, which is electronically locking diffs, so you can't do it on the road because you get wind up, as we said with the D-Max Fury review. And then you've got a low range one. So at no point can I opt for locking diffs up. So I've lost traction on pretty much all four wheels, but there might have been a bit of traction somewhere. So I was very much relying on the electronic diff picking that up. It may well be far better than me, but I did feel like it could do with some locking diff action going on. This car is designed to go over snow and all sorts of very low traction surfaces and rocks and all sorts of high traction surfaces. I just kind of felt like I need some more toys. Maybe, but maybe that's me. But you know, feel free to comment underneath. It may be because I just don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to four-wheel drives. I think they're cool and I like them, but I'm no off-roader, so I'd appreciate any feedback actually. Is just relying on an electronic diff setup perfectly serviceable? Is having an auto on an off-road vehicle perfectly serviceable and I'm just not very good? Or is there potentially a slight issue here? It is available in manual, the 6-speed manual, which I would just prefer. I love autos, but only on certain really powerful kind of cruisy cars. On this sort of vehicle, I want to be in control. And actually, the manual box on the Fury was cool. It was a big old agricultural box, and it felt great, and I liked it. So I got it stuck. I was back and forth, spraying mud everywhere, including inside, because I stupidly left the window open as I was looking out the window, giving it the beans in reverse, and I plastered myself in mud, which sadly I didn't get on video, which I'm sure everyone would have enjoyed. So it was very stuck. I dug such a huge trench, there's no way I was getting it out. I don't know how else to say it, you saw it on the video. Thankfully my friend managed, after 2 days of no rain, got a little bit more tacky, and he managed to get the front round and then drag it out with a JCB. So it was well in there and it needed to be towed up by a digger. But I don't know whether that cast any aspersions on its credibility, because if you read Auto Express reviews and other things like that, they said there's nothing in the UK that can stop this car. Well, there is. It's a field over in Heathfield, and it stopped it dead, and there was no way I was getting it out. So it sort of feels like it was thwarted by the simplest thing, and I was right by a gate. The tarmac was 8 feet away from me, and I was completely and utterly stuck. That felt really weird in such a beast of a car. So I don't think it's the car's fault. I think the wrong tyres were on it, and I think I didn't know what I was doing. But this is an impartial review, so that's what happened, and I'll leave that for people to decide. Please don't be rude to me. I'm just not very good at driving off-road vehicles, clearly. One of my bugbears with this car is a very, very poor stereo system. I don't know why in this day and age we've got something that's kind of like a LED. I mean, seriously, it just says the time and it's about that big in the corner, and there's no DAB, fine. The USB port is next to useless because it's an old USB. The only thing I can plug into it is my GoPro, I think. The aux is there, that's fine, good. I can plug something in. It has got Bluetooth for the phone, which is great, which, as I said earlier, was a bit echoey. I rang my mum, and I always ring my mum when I have a test car. I try to ring my mum a lot, in my own car as well, and I've got just a random aftermarket setup in my Impreza, and she can always hear me fine. It's a really good judge of a car when she doesn't understand what I'm saying when I ring her, and she said this sounded really echoey. It was almost like she was getting a second voice through. So I don't know why. I was using it on a Samsung Galaxy S7, so all modern kit, so it should be fine. So the stereo really is easy. I feel like you've let a really cool car down by putting in something a bit rubbish. Maybe I'm not asking for sat nav and DAB and everything, although these days is DAB such a big deal? It makes a big difference to me. I really like it, but I don't know whether it adds to the cost that much. So stereo sucks, for want of a better word. Huge climate controlled system, unnecessarily huge, really nice looking, kind of a bit out of place. Steering controls, as I said, cruise control fine, yeah, all your usual stuff. Heated seats are nice. I think any kind of agricultural vehicle, you should have heated seats. Those cold mornings, you know, crack of dawn, all that sort of stuff. So that's good. Heating steering wheel would be nice, but when we're getting into luxury territory, as I said, plenty of cubby holes, bog standard interior. I'm sure it'll wipe down because it's going to have to, because someone's going to have to clean it. And then that leaves us with the auto box. So I've mentioned it already. As a driving auto on the roads, it's fine. Nice box. No big deal. Really, there's nothing to talk about. I didn't really think about it. It's not a performance vehicle, so it just changes gear for me. It's got a shift lock, so you can lock it in a gear, which I was messing about with a bit in the mud, but it didn't seem to help too much. You've got a little sequential up-down. Not really sure why you'd ever want that. I suppose it gives it a slightly manual feel, but it's the clutch issue that really I wanted in the mud situation. It's not about being able to change gear, it's about being able to rock my clutch on and off. That's your lot. Very simple car. As with many niche cars, when you start thinking about fuel economy on a sports car, it seems a bit silly. You start thinking about performance on a 4x4 like this, it feels a bit silly. I didn't check the fuel economy specs. I'll try and overlay them on this rambling about fuel economy so you can see. It arrived very kindly with about 3/4 of a tank. I've been driving around all week, got it stuck in the mud, revving the nuts off it, and I've got about 1/4 of a tank left. I reckon that's pretty good, but I don't know how big the tank is. I'm sure I've read it's in the 30s, I think, but you got to haul this huge thing around, so I wouldn't be expecting any great shakes with the fuel economy. But again, I suppose it is an issue. If you consider this a fun vehicle and you bought it for fun, then fuel economy, you kind of have to take it as it comes. If this is going to be your work vehicle, then of course that's a huge consideration. That's a very different thing to think about. So economy is important. So I'm afraid there's no computer that's going to tell me. I've got a computer here, but I can't figure out how to actually change it to give me any other stats apart from trip. And there's no buttons anywhere unless I'm missing something. So I can't tell you what I've actually got. So I don't know what the real world is, but I'll try and put out the other one, the quoted figures. So I'm just pulling into Tesco's, but it's not really busy, so it's probably not really a very good example. But it does fit. It is big. Oh, I'll tell you what we do. Land Rover there. Let's park next to the Land Rover. And then I'll take the camera out and you can see. We can do a bit of a height comparison. So there is a Defender 110 next to us. Just unscrew the camera. There is the 110. So we are, you can see, sorry about the mud, the ride height is just higher than a long wheelbase Defender. Yeah, it's definitely higher. It's definitely higher than a lot of other things. It's a big car. So on every test I do, I've always got to try and think, who's the car for? who's going to buy this? Who should buy this? I have no idea with the AT35. Honestly, like, the D-Max is a beast. That is a workhorse, that is a farm vehicle, that is, I don't know, anyone that's in a trade needs to load a load of stuff, or just anyone that wants a cool truck. And the latter is where this comes in. I cannot see any reason why you would buy this in the UK unless you just wanted a cool truck, which I believe is firm justification for buying it, by the way. Cars are a passion for me, and they should be fun, and you should love getting in it. And do you know what? I've loved getting in this every day. So who's it for? It's for someone who's got 30 grand that they can justify. I always talk about justification, that they can justify on buying such a cool truck. It looks awesome, it turns heads, it's very capable, it's an absolute beast. If you were looking at a 21 grand truck and you know you were doing it for work, and you could think, if I can find another 10 grand I can have something really, really cool. I can imagine people who want to sign write them, so they want to stand out a little bit, make their business kind of stand out a little bit. This would be a really, really good move. It's just cool. It's cool. So that's who will buy it. You know, we're not going through the usual demographic of 30-somethings or 40-somethings. I have no idea. But it's a big old truck. It's very cool. If you have to do any mud plugging and stuff, I'm sure it will be great. Thanks for watching the Velocity Talk road test of the Isuzu D-Max AT35 Arctic Truck Special. It's a great car. I would love one. Do you know what? If I had the choice of having multiple cars, it couldn't be my only car. If I had the choice of having 5 or 6, I would definitely have this in a garage, pull out when it's snowing, or just when I felt like being a hillbilly. It's really cool. I'd totally have one. It's quite expensive, 31 plus grand. By the time you've added some extras on, it's probably going to go up a little bit. It's not a cheap car, but it's not a normal car either. So I think you're paying for something extra. Do put your comments underneath. There's been some really good comments recently, some nice ones about the Fiat 500 review, which was one I wasn't expecting to get much in the way of comments on. My reviews are just me thinking and talking about a car and driving a car around. I don't get paid for this. I source the cars, people send me cars, I don't even ask for which cars, I just get whatever. So these are as honest and real as I could possibly make them. I hope that's a plus point for most people. I have no ulterior motives. It's just what I think about cars. I've always loved cars, and I suppose I know a lot about cars. And they're my thoughts. So I really appreciate the views, I appreciate the likes. Do share it around, and leave your comments. I'll see you next time.